When the tribes of Reuben, Gad, Manasseh, Judah, and Ephraim received their allotment of land, they began to move into it. Caleb led the tribe of Judah in their efforts to take their allotment when he drove the Canaanites out of Hebron and Debir. Manasseh and Ephraim took possession of the hill country of their allotment, but had yet to take possession of the valleys. The Israelites symbolically took possession of the land by moving the tabernacle to Shiloh in the territory of Ephraim. Joshua 18, verse 1. And the whole congregation of the children of Israel assembled together at Shiloh, and set up the tabernacle of the congregation there, and the land was subdued before them. However, the Israelites still had not totally taken possession of the land. The other 7 tribes had not received their allotment. This step was necessary before the Levites could receive their cities and before the cities of refuge could be set up. Now finally, all this needed to be in place so that the 2.5 tribes who received their allotment on the east side of the Jordan could return to their homes. I'm Dan Cathcart, and this is the promise of rest. We would have expected that all the land promised to Israel would have been apportioned at the same time. Now instead, we learn that the children of Israel set up the tabernacle in the city of Shiloh. The Jewish sages state that this event was 14 years after they entered the Promised Land. The tabernacle of the wilderness accompanied Israel into the land and was at Gilgal temporarily until the 14 years of conquest and distribution were over. Now at the end of that period, the tabernacle was transferred to Shiloh in the province of Ephraim, where it would remain for 369 years until it was destroyed by the invading Philistines. Now, with its semi-permanent status in Shiloh, it appeared that the tribes had found the place where God's name was to abide. In that case, the flexibility that God extended to Israel to bring their offerings to other places in the land had ended. The Art Scroll commentary on Joshua and Judges explains, until it, that is the tabernacle, was erected in Shiloh, an individual Jew was permitted to set up a bama, a private altar, where some, but not all, offerings could be brought. Now once the permanent tabernacle in Shiloh came into existence, it became the center of spiritual life, and offerings could be brought only there. The name of the city the Israelites built around the tabernacle was Shiloh. The name Shiloh is number 7886 in the Strong's Concordance and means tranquil. The first use of this name was the prophecy that Jacob spoke about his son Judah. Look at Genesis 49, verse 10. The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh comes, and to him shall be the obedience of the people. Now this prophecy declares that Judah will rule over Israel until Shiloh, or tranquility, comes. However, the city of Shiloh wasn't even in the tribal lands of Judah, nor was the ruler of Israel at the time from the tribe of Judah. Joshua, who led the Israelites, could be considered the ruler, but he was from the tribe of Ephraim. So why then was the place of the tabernacle called Shiloh? The sages Onkelos and Rashi render the phrase until Shiloh comes in Jacob's prophecy as until the Messiah comes. The Stone Edition Humash comments, until Shiloh arrives. Onkelos, followed by Rashi, renders until the Messiah comes, to whom the kingdom belongs. This verse is a primary Torah source for the belief that the Messiah will come. The phrase, until Shiloh comes, should not be read that the scepter will depart from Judah when Messiah comes, but rather, once Messiah begins to reign, Judah's blessing of kingship will be fully realized. So naming Shiloh for the place where the tabernacle was set up, it is in anticipation of the coming Messiah. With the erection of the tabernacle in Shiloh, which is said to have been made with stone walls, the presence of God is established in the land. However, after Judah, Ephraim, and Manasseh received their share of the land, the apportionments was interrupted. Now it seems that the rest of the promised land had not been mapped, and so they did not have enough information to establish tribal boundaries. Joshua 18, 2-4. And there remained among the children of Israel 7 tribes which had not yet received their inheritance. And Joshua said unto the children of Israel, How long are ye slack to go in to possess the land, which the Lord your God of your fathers hath given you? Give out from among you 3 men for each tribe, and I will send them, and they shall rise and go through the land and describe it according to the inheritance of them, and they shall come again to me. The tribes did as Joshua commanded, and when they returned to Shiloh with maps apportioning the land, Joshua and Eleazar allotted the portions to the tribes. Benjamin received land between Judah and Ephraim, stretching down to the Jordan River to include Jericho. Joshua chapter 18 lists 14 cities that are part of Benjamin's inheritance. One of the notable cities, other than Jericho, that had been allotted to Benjamin was Jabus, or Jerusalem. Jerusalem was also included in the cities allotted to Judah. It was, in fact, singled out as a city that Judah failed to possess. Look at Joshua 15, verse 63. As for the Jebusites, the inhabitants of Jerusalem, the children of Judah could not drive them out, but the Jebusites dwell with the children of Judah at Jerusalem to this day. So which tribe actually inherits Jerusalem? The ArtScroll commentary on Joshua and Judges comments on this issue. Judah, too, received Jerusalem. The city was divided between Judah and Benjamin. There are various opinions regarding the location of the altar of the future temple. Was it on Judah's land or Benjamin's or both? Now, Simeon is next to receive his portion. His portion is not like the portions of the other tribes. He received 13 cities, but within the territory of Judah. Joshua 19, verse 9. The inheritance of the children of Simeon was included in the share of the children of Judah, for the share of the children of Judah was too much for them. Therefore the children of Simeon had their inheritance within the inheritance of that people. Jacob had prophesied that this would be the case for Simeon. During the wilderness years, the tribe of Simeon decreased in size. Now, this may have been due to their being caught up in the rebellions that were in the wilderness. When Korah rebelled against Moses, he incited the camp of Reuben, of which Simeon was a part, to rebel with him. Now, when the children of Israel sinned by worshiping the idols of Midian, the priest Phinehas thrust a spear through Zimri, a prince from the tribe of Simeon. Now, after all the tribes received their allotment, Joshua received his portion. The allotment of the land, which began with Caleb asking for and receiving Hebron as his inheritance in the land, now concludes with Joshua asking for and receiving the city of Timnath-Serah. Now, when Caleb asked for Hebron as his inheritance, the tribe supported him in his choice. Now that it was Joshua's turn to receive an inheritance, the entire camp of Israel supported him in his choice of city. Joshua 19, 49 and 50. When they had made an end of dividing the land as an inheritance according to their borders, the children of Israel gave an inheritance among them to Joshua the son of Nun. According to the word of the Lord, they gave him the city which he asked for, Timnath-Serah, in the mountains of Ephraim, and he built the city and dwelt in it. With the tribal land of all apportioned, God told Joshua to establish the 6 cities of refuge. The 3 cities of Bezer, Ramoth, and Golan had already been chosen east of the Jordan River by Moses. The 3 cities west of the Jordan were Kadesh, Shechem, and Hebron, in line from north to south. Joshua 20, verse 7. So they appointed Kadesh in Galilee, in the mountains of Naphtali, Shechem in the mountains of Ephraim, and Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, in the mountains of Judah. Now finally, it was time to assign the cities to the Levites. The allotment starts with the family of Kohath, of which Aaron and all the priests are a subfamily. Aaron and his sons received 13 cities from the tribes of Judah, Benjamin, and Simeon. Joshua 21, verse 4. Now the lot came out for the families of the Kohathites, and the children of Aaron the priest, who were of the Levites, had 13 cities by lot from the tribe of Judah, from the tribe of Simeon, and from the tribe of Benjamin. Now it's interesting to note that all 13 of the cities received by Aaron were within close proximity to Jerusalem, not to Shiloh. Now among the cities that Aaron received were Hebron, which is given to Caleb, Debir, which was given to Caleb's son-in-law Othniel, and Gibeon, the Canaanite city that Israel had made peace with. Now notice that Hebron was not only Caleb's inheritance and a city of refuge, but Hebron was also a city for the priests. When we add the information that Hebron was the burial place of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, we understand more about the spiritual significance of Hebron. Altogether, the Levites received 48 cities from each of the tribes or tribal regions, including the 6 cities of refuge. Joshua 21, 41, and 42. All the cities of the Levites within the possession of the children of Israel were 48 cities with their common lands. Every one of these cities had its common land surrounding it. Thus were all these cities. Now, with the apportionment of the land complete, God fulfilled his promise to Abraham that his descendants would inherit the land. Joshua 21, 43 and 45. So the Lord gave to Israel all the land of which he had sworn to give to their fathers, and they took possession of it and dwelt in it. The Lord gave them rest all around, according to all that he had sworn to their fathers. And not a man of all their enemies stood against them. The Lord delivered all their enemies into their hands. Not a word failed of any good thing which the Lord had spoken to the house of Israel. All came to pass. Israel was victorious every time they went to battle because the Lord delivered their enemies into their hands. So why were there still Canaanites in the land? The ArtScroll commentary on Joshua and Judges answers this question. Although significant sections of the land were still in enemy hands, this was due to the failure of Joshua and the nation to pursue the conquest, as they had been commanded. Now, indeed, whenever they did fight, God delivered all their enemies into their hands. Although it took 14 years, Israel was now firmly established in the Promised Land. The tribes all had their portions. Now they needed to complete the task of taking and occupying their land. The tabernacle was established in Shiloh as a central place of worship and gathering. The tribes on the eastern side of the Jordan River had kept their oath to assist their fellow Israelites in taking the land. So according to their oath, they promised not to return to their homes east of the Jordan until all the tribes had received their inheritance. When all the land was apportioned, Joshua released them to return to their homes. Joshua 22, 3-6. You have not left your brethren these many days up to this day, but have kept the charge of the commandment of the Lord your God. And now the Lord your God has given rest to your brethren, as he promised them. Now therefore return and go to your tents and to the land of your possession, which Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave you on the other side of the Jordan. But take careful heed to do the commandments and the law which Moses, the servant of the Lord, commanded you, to love the Lord your God, to walk in all his ways, to keep his commandments, to hold fast to him, and to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul. So Joshua blessed them and sent them away, and they went to their tents. Now, it looks like a happy ending is in sight. However, there is one more challenge that Israel must face. As Reuben, Gad, and half-tribe of Manasseh prepared to cross back to the east side of the Jordan River, they stopped to erect an altar on the banks of the Jordan River. When the rest of Israel heard about this altar, they prepared to go to war against these tribes. Look at Joshua 22:11 and 12. Now the children of Israel heard someone say, Behold, the children of Reuben, the children of Gad, and half the tribe of Manasseh have built an altar on the frontier of the land of Canaan, in the region of the Jordan, on the children of Israel's side. And when the children of Israel heard it, the whole congregation of the children of Israel gathered together at Shiloh to go to war against them. God had commanded that Israel was only to bring offerings to the altar at the Tabernacle of Meeting, which had been established at Shiloh. The punishment for breaking this command was death, and to be cut off from the rest of Israel. So the rest of Israel gathered at Shiloh to organize for war against their brothers. They sent the priest Phinehas to lead the way. Joshua 22:13 through 14. Then the children of Israel sent Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the priest, to the children of Reuben, to the children of Gad, and to the half-tribe of Manasseh, into the land of Gilead. And with him 10 rulers, 1 ruler each from the chief house of every tribe of Israel, and each one was head of the house of his father among the divisions of Israel. Now Phinehas was the priest who demonstrated his zeal for God when he stopped the plague God sent against Israel when they worshipped Baal Peor. In addition to Phinehas, they sent 10 leaders from each tribe to support him. 10 is the minimum number of men needed for a Beit Din, or house of judgment. Now they were prepared to render judgment against Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh. When they arrived at the place of the altar, Phinehas demanded an explanation for their seeming rebellion against God. He reminds them of the plague that God sent on Israel because of their sin of worshiping Baal Peor. Joshua 22:17 through 18. Is the iniquity of Peor not enough for us, from which we are not cleansed until this day, though there was a plague in the congregation of the Lord? But that you must turn away this day from following the Lord? And it shall be, if you rebel today against the Lord, that tomorrow he will be angry with the whole congregation of Israel. Worshipping at another altar would not only be rebelling against God's commandments, it would also result in tearing apart the community of Israel. Phinehas and the other leaders expressed the conviction that the rebellion of Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh would result in the entire nation of Israel losing the favor of God. They pled with them that if they could not remain faithful to God, if they lived east of the Jordan, then they should receive an inheritance west of the Jordan River with their other brothers. Look at Joshua 22, verse 19. Nevertheless, if the land of your possession is unclean, then cross over to the land of the possession of the Lord, where the Lord's tabernacle stands, and take possession among us. But do not rebel against the Lord, nor rebel against us by building yourselves an altar besides the altar of the Lord our God. Now they cite how the recent disobedience of Achan had consequences for the entire nation. Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh were shocked at how the rest of Israel saw their actions. Their intent was not to bring offerings and sacrifices on the altar other than the one at Shiloh. They called on God twice as a witness that they had not rebelled against God. Joshua 22, verse 22. The mighty one, God, the Lord, the mighty one, God, the Lord, he knows, and may Israel itself know. If it was in rebellion, or if in an unfaithful act against the Lord, do not save us this day. Now they go on to relate that they built a large replica of God's altar to remind the tribes on the west side of the river that those on the eastern side are their brothers, and that they also worship the Lord God. Look at Joshua 22, 24 through 25. But truly, we have done this out of concern, for a reason, saying, in time to come, your sons may say to our sons, what have you to do with the Lord, the God of Israel? For the Lord has made the Jordan a border between us and you. You sons of Reuben and sons of Gad, you have no portion in the Lord. so your sons may make our sons stop fearing the Lord. The motivation of both groups turned out to be the same. Both groups wanted to maintain the unity of the nation of Israel. They just went about it in a different way. The altar that the 2.5 tribes built was to be a witness, and that they had just as much right to bring offerings to the Lord at his altar as the tribes on the western side of the river. Joshua 22:26-28. Therefore we said, let us build an altar, not for burnt offering or for sacrifices. Rather, it shall be a witness between us and you, and between our generations after us, that we are to perform the service of the Lord before him with our burnt offerings and with our sacrifices and with our peace offerings, so that your sons will not say to our sons in time to come, you have no portion in the Lord. Therefore we said, it shall also come about, if they say to us, or to our generations in time to come, see, the copy of the altar of the Lord which our fathers made, not for burnt offerings or for sacrifices, rather it is a witness between us and you. Phinehas and the other leaders ended up supporting the idea that the altar was a witness and that they were all entitled to worship at the altar of God at the Tabernacle of Meeting. Look at Joshua 22, verse 34. And the sons of Reuben, the sons of Gad, proclaimed concerning the altar that it is a witness between us that Jehovah is God. Now the children of Israel did not allow the geographical division of the Jordan River to divide them spiritually. All of the tribes received their inheritance, either on the east side of the Jordan or on the west side. Previously in Joshua, we read after the account of the southern and the northern campaigns that the land had rest from war. After the apportionment of the land, we read that God gave them rest all around. They had received the land that God had promised to give them and had entered into God's rest. I'm Dan Cathcart from Moed Ministries International. Shalom and be blessed.